For generations, the deaths of Native American leaders have been wrapped in legend, distortion, and deliberate silence. History books often reduce them to footnotes, but the truth is far more complex, painful, and human. These were not just warriors or chiefs, they were strategists, diplomats, spiritual leaders, and symbols of resistance in a world collapsing under colonial expansion. Many did not die gloriously in battle as popular myths suggest. Some were betrayed, some starved, some imprisoned, and others slowly broken by disease and displacement. What follows is not a romantic retelling, but a grounded look at how 21 legendary Native American figures are believed to have really died, separating myth from the harsh realities of their final days. Tecumseh, the famed Shawnee leader, is often remembered as dying heroically on the battlefield during the War of 1812, but eyewitness accounts suggest a more tragic end. He was killed at the Battle of the Thames in 1830, likely shot multiple times while trying to rally retreating warriors after British forces abandoned their native allies. His body was never officially identified, and rumors spread that his remains were mutilated by American soldiers seeking trophies. The mystery surrounding his body became part of his legend. But the truth is that Tecumseh died fighting for unity among tribes that colonial powers worked tirelessly to divide. Sitting Bull's death is frequently simplified as a violent standoff, yet the reality reveals betrayal and fear. In 1890, U.S. authorities viewed him as a threat during the Ghost Dance movement. Despite little evidence he was leading it, Native police were sent to arrest him, and during the chaos, shots were fired. Sitting Bull was killed by members of his own people under government pressure, a calculated move that symbolized how colonial systems forced Native communities to turn against their leaders. Crazy Horse did not die in battle as legend suggests. After surrendering in 1877, he was imprisoned at Fort Robinson under false pretenses. Confused and resisting confinement, he was bayoneted by a soldier while being forced into a cell. He died later that night, not as a warrior charging into battle, but as a captive betrayed by promises of peace. After decades of resistance, he spent his final years as a prisoner of war, forced to live in Oklahoma, far from his homeland. He died in 1909 from pneumonia after falling into a ditch while riding home drunk, lying in the cold overnight. It was an unceremonious end for a man once feared by two nations. A phrase reflecting chronic stress, grief, and despair rather than a medical diagnosis. His death embodied the psychological toll of forced displacement. Black Hawk's death was quiet and symbolic. After years of resistance and eventual capture, he lived his final days under watch. Stripped of power, he died in 1838 from illness, likely exacerbated by stress and poor living conditions. Ebony death, his body was stolen and displayed before being returned, showing that Native dignity was denied even beyond the grave. And he was stabbed by a fellow Native under colonial manipulation. His death highlights how colonial powers exploited internal divisions to eliminate resistance leaders without direct confrontation. Red Cloud outlived many of his enemies, dying in 1909. But his later years were marked by confinement to a reservation and the erosion of everything he fought for. He died blind and disillusioned. Osceola, leader of the Seminole resistance, was captured under a false flag of truce. Cochise's death remains partially shrouded in secrecy. He died of natural causes around 1874, but his burial site was deliberately hidden to prevent desecration, reflecting a justified fear that even his corpse would not be respected. Chief Seattle died in 1866. His famous speech about the land is likely a later reconstruction, yet his real life ended quietly, disconnected from the booming city that would later bear his name. Hiawatha's death is largely legendary, as historical records are scarce. Oral traditions suggest he died peacefully. Methacom, known as King Philip, was hunted down and killed in 1676. His body was dismembered, his head displayed for decades, turning his death into a warning meant to crush future resistance. His death underscores how colonial interference destabilized native governance structures. Having aligned with the British in hopes of protecting his people. Blue Jacket, another Shawnee leader, disappeared from records around 1808. Many believe he died in obscurity, deliberately erased after his defeat, showing how history often silences those who lose. Finally, Sacagawea's death remains disputed. Some accounts say she died young from illness in 1812. While others claim she lived into old age. The uncertainty itself reflects how Native women's lives were poorly recorded, their endings left ambiguous. Together, these deaths tell a story rarely shown in movies or textbooks. They revealed not just how these legends died, but how an entire world was systematically dismantled through violence, betrayal, disease, and erasure. Their stories survive not because history preserved them carefully, but because memory refused to let them disappear.